everybody. Welcome to our live stream back with from Colorado. So happy to be here with all of you back in my studio. Please make sure you like and subscribe to this channel and this video. It's good to have you with me here, my friends, on a Monday night live stream talking about considering Catholicism. Those of you who are thinking about it, maybe you've been drawn to the Catholic faith and you're feeling like you're confused. Like, why would I want to become one of those crazy Catholics? I don't know what to do with all that. Like, that just seems absolutely crazy, my friends. If that's something that you're interested in, I would love to talk with you. I'm not here to get into debates. I'm not in here to argue with people. I'm not here to, listen to all of your gripes about the Catholic Church, anything like that. But if you've got if you're thinking about it, then I'd love to take some time to speak with you. So when we're going to do that here shortly, you can list your questions in the comments. Please do me a favor and put question and then your question, and that'll give me a better chance of seeing it. Can't guarantee I see them all, but we're going to do the very best that we can. Then, of course, if you click that link at the very top, the pinned comment, that is going to take you into the green room where eventually you will be put on screen. So every week we have somebody who clicks that just for whatever, just for fun. And then when I put them on, they're like, whoa! So don't do that unless you're ready to be on the screen. But it's so good to be here with all of you, my friends. Okay, looks like we've got somebody in the green room here that wants to talk to us, or talk to me anyway. Let's see what Mr. Orthodox has to say. Hey, can you hear me? You have yourself muted. Oh, and he's gone. Okay. Well, that happens. All right. Hey, whatever. We're low tech around here. We are low key around here. So that stuff's going to happen. But thank you guys so much. I did see a couple questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and grab one. But before I do, remember tomorrow morning, Lenny Curry is going to be here. He's the former mayor of Jacksonville, Florida. The guy's incredible. He's got an incredible Catholic conversion story. He literally flew to my house from the White House. That's what happened. No joke. And that'll be 10 a.m. tomorrow right here on this channel. So I hope that you will check it out. All right. First question from Andrea. How you doing, Andrea? She says, question, do you believe that hold on a second here. I got to try to make this so I can see it all here. Hold on. Okay. Andrea says, do you believe that all the parts of humans that are now relics will be united to one body at the second coming? That is an incredible question. I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure how that's all going to work. It would kind of make sense if you think about it, because our resurrected bodies, well, yeah, what happens to people that have first-class relics? But you could really kind of say that same question about anything kind of, what about a guy who's eaten by sharks? I don't know. God will figure all that stuff out, but I'm not sure. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of things that happen at the resurrection that we're not really sure how it all works out, but God's got it figured out. Okay, Hawthorne, question. Keith, can you discuss the Catholic tradition of venerating relics? Oh, another question. At my parish, venerating relics. At my parish, relics of Padre Pio will be there, including a scan from his stigmata. But do you think that's gross? Okay, so the other day, I've listened to a video that my friend Kenny Burchard, remember Kenny was on here a few weeks ago, and he he answered a bunch of questions. He did a video with Dave Armstrong talking about the veneration of relics and where you find that in the Bible and the practice of that in the church. So it's an old tradition that goes back, even before Christianity. It goes back to Judaism. They carried around the bones of the saints, and we see in the scripture instances where people were touched. A person was healed touching the bones of Elijah. The person was raised from the dead. And of course, we see the shadow of Peter healing people. We see the handkerchiefs touched by Paul. So we see these things. And then, of course, we see the early Christians that they venerated the relics of the saints. So it goes all the way back to the beginning. Do I think it's gross? And I know you said that's a scab from a stigmata. I don't think it's gross. I think it's awesome, actually, because to me, it helps us be even more aware of the power of God in his saints, my friends. Super, super awesome. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Good to be with all of you guys. You guys are answering your own questions here. Okay, here we go. We got a question from Blue Bear Bubby. Question: I am currently going through the RCIA program in Australia, the Eucharist for those who accept this and take part in it for eternal life. What happens to all others that do not accept this? Okay, hold on. I'm going through the RCIA, the Eucharist for those who accept this and take part. Okay, I think what you're asking for is what happens to those who don't accept the Eucharist. Well, I think that Christ said, "Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you." So he talks about how important the Eucharist is for us. Now, what about people who weren't raised in Catholicism, weren't raised as Christians, and they do all they can to have a faith in God, but they were never taught about this? Are they just out? I don't think so. I think God can, as the Catechism says, God can apply his sacraments, his grace. He's not bound by the sacraments to anybody that he wants. So I think ultimately it's going to depend. If you receive that and you believe that and then you reject it, I think that's different than someone who's never had the opportunity or who's never understood what the church teaches on that. All right. Question from Everyday Sacred. How you doing? How do I answer someone who says that praying to saints or asking saints or loved ones to pray for us is unbiblical because for them to intercede for us would mean they would be aware? Well, they are aware. That's what I would say. I would just simply say, well, okay, I agree. I don't agree that it's unbiblical. I agree that it's biblical that they are aware. Hebrews 11 says we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses talking about the saints. In Revelation, we see the saints in heaven praying about events that are happening on the earth. We see Moses and Elijah with Jesus on Mount Tabor at the Transfiguration. They're aware of what's going on. So I think the bigger question to someone who says that it's unbiblical is have you read your Bible? Because it's pretty clear from the Bible that the saints are aware of us. Now, they still might say, well, you shouldn't pray to them. You should only pray to God. Okay, well, the Bible tells us in lots of places that we should pray for one another. So if the saints are with the Lord and they're aware of us, then it only makes sense that we would pray to them. And that's how the earliest Christians operated, and that's how the church has always operated. So, friends, we need to remember that. All right. Super chat. All right. From Susie Glaze. Thank you for the super chat. What happens to babies that die, that aren't baptized, but die as babies? Yeah, this is a tough question. And, the truth is there have been different things people have said about this throughout the history of the church. But what the church has landed on is this. And I wanted to clarify, just because someone said something doesn't mean that's what the church officially taught. Okay. What the church officially teaches is that the grace of baptism is required for salvation. Now, can God apply that baptism to a baby who had no possibility of baptism? God can do whatever God wants to do. But yet at the same time, the church has always understood that baptism is necessary for salvation. So that's why the church, in her wisdom, has said, baptize your babies, don't wait, because that's the sure thing that God has given us. Ultimately, I can't answer that question. The church says in the Catechism that we entrust unbaptized babies to the mercy of God, who said, let the little children come to me and let no one hinder them. So the church says that we can have a hope for their salvation. But friends, I want to make crystal clear that you should baptize your babies. That's the surest way to ensure that your baby is in heaven with the Lord. Okay, my friends? Now, I know people think, well, what about limbo? Limbo is something that was a theological speculation. It was never taught as a dogma of the church, my friends. And of course, the belief in limbo is that there's this other place, this outer layer where, and I've heard some people say it's an outer layer of hell, and I've heard some people say it's an outer layer of heaven, where babies who are not baptized enjoy a spirit of or a place of temporal happiness, but they're not in the beatific vision because they haven't been washed clean of original sin. Keep in mind, though, that's not something that the church officially has ever taught. It's just people wondering, how does God work all this stuff out? Which I think that's kind of interesting. Some people get upset about that. And they go, wait, how can the church say that? Well, when God hasn't revealed things in a crystal clear way on everything, which he hasn't to us. People can speculate on things, and they can hope, and they can offer their opinions about things, and that's one of those things. But we know for sure that Jesus says, unless you're born of water and the Spirit, you cannot see the kingdom of heaven. So baptize your babies, my friends. Okay, question here from, well, that's a comment. Okay, question. I'm currently attending OCIA, but my spouse is not. Will I be accepted in the Catholic Church? Of course you will be. Yeah, you will be accepted in the Catholic Church. The things that could get in the way of that, you might have to go through some hoops, Susan, but theoretically, yeah, you can be accepted into the Catholic Church. The thing that might, and I don't know your situation, but the thing that might have to be dealt with is if you or your spouse were ever married before each other, then you would have to seek the church's, you have to seek out an annulment to see if your previous marriages would be annulled, because if the church doesn't believe in divorce. So if you were married, or either one of you was married before, and that other spouse is still living, then the church is going to look at those marriages and say, hey, were you ever married before? Because the reality is this: if that's a valid marriage, then you're still married to the other person, or he's still married to the other person. I don't know if that applies to you or not, but you could talk to your priest and see what the situation is. But let's just pretend, because I don't know the situation, neither one of you was married before. The two of you are married, and your spouse isn't Catholic. Can you be Catholic? Of course you can. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Okay. Hey, you're in Jacksonville. All right. Your mayor's going to be on my show tomorrow, or your former mayor. All right. Make sure you check it out. Okay. Question from FB Fan 413. I've been attending Mass for the past year. The priest tried to push himself on me. Oh, no. I feel betrayed, but still feel pulled to the church, finding it hard to return the Mass. Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but what it sounds like is not good. If your priest tried to behave with you in an inappropriate way, you need to go right to your bishop. You need to report that. Okay. Yeah, you've absolutely been betrayed. You still should come to the church, but you should 100% say something to somebody about that. This isn't something to mess around with. This isn't something to look the other way on. This isn't something to just go, oh, well, that was unfortunate. If your priest has done that to you, he's probably going to do that to somebody else if he hasn't already, and that's not okay. So contact someone else in your diocese, contact your bishop, and absolutely come to the church, but don't ever go back to him ever again. Okay? I'm dead serious about that. That's super important. Okay, let's see. Question. Currently in RCIA, how to deal with Protestant parents that believe the typical Protestant views of Catholicism. Yep. Yeah. Well, how old are you? I guess that's an issue we got to deal with. If you're under 18, you live with your parents, then you have to like see what they have going on. If they're okay with you joining the church. If not, you should probably wait until you're older. If you are older and you're on your own, then you deal with them. Like, you show them love, you show them respect, but at the same time, you try to explain to them this is what the Lord's led you to. So I think there's a lot of other circumstances that come into play there. Okay, we've got a guest coming on. We've got Jen. Jen, how are you doing? Whoops, hold on. Let's do this. Where'd Jen go? There she is. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Hey, good. So glad to say hello to you.
Me
Like,
too.
I've been watching you for a while, and you're amazing.
Oh, well, God bless you. Thank you so much.
So I have two questions.
Okay.
So, uh, kind of a spot of where I am. I'm not Catholic. I was raised Baptist. Had a long journey, a lot of non-denominational churches, and then about 15 years ago, I joined the Mormon Church because that's what my husband was raised in. And when I joined the Mormon Church, I had been looking into it for about 2 years, and somebody had just said, you know what, like, you can't know everything, just take the dive and join. And then I joined and things did not doctrinally turn out.
Mhm.
So my first question would be, at what point, or like, is there a point where you can be like, okay, I know enough about the Catholic Church to join? Because I'm kind of afraid of jumping in, not knowing all of the doctrine and whether or not I understand everything and agree with everything, because I don't want the same thing to happen again.
Yeah, sure.
And my second question is about Mary. So I've listened to a lot of different podcasts and stuff on Mary, and I'm okay with her perpetual virginity. I'm okay with, like, God gave her to us, or Jesus gave her to us and said, this is your mother. Um, I think where I'm hung up is, why devote so much time to her? Like, say if you're going to pray 1 hour a day,
Mhm.
like, why not give 59 minutes of that to God, to Jesus, and sort of 1 minute to Mary to say, like, hey, Mary, pray for me about X, Y, or Z. I just feel like so much time is devoted to praying to Mary. And it's like, if you're going to spend an hour, like, isn't it, don't you get sort of a bigger bang for your buck if you're spending 59 of that with God and not with Mary?
Okay, that's a good question, and I would say this: how much time do you think the church mandates that you spend praying to Mary?
I don't know.
Okay, the answer is none. Okay, so the church doesn't mandate. I mean, other than like when you go to mass and you say the prayers and you ask for the intercession of the saints, things like that. But if you go to mass, like for example, like 99% of everything, like all the prayers are directed like totally toward God. Um, Marian devotion is like a personal thing that people use to help them draw near to Christ. It's not one or the other. It's not we pray to Mary instead of praying to Jesus. It's we go to her to help us get to Jesus. So if you are uncomfortable, if that doesn't feel right to you, or if that doesn't make sense to you, then to be a Catholic doesn't require you to do anything like that. Um, I can tell you that that's a tough thing to really put into practice, because like you could say the same thing. It's like, would you put in the same category asking someone to pray for you, like your friends or your family, you know, as going to the Lord? You probably would say, well, that's different, right? To go ask for intercession, right?
I think it's kind of the same. I just, like, if I'm sick, I would just be like, hey, Susie, like, can you pray for me? And that's
Hmm.
all of like 30 seconds. I think, honestly, I think part of it is the Baptist upbringing,
Yeah.
and feeling like I want to have a relationship, and because I don't I don't have, like, my mom's alive, but I don't, she's not there for me. So, like, I really
Yeah.
want to have a relationship where a mother is there for me. Part of it just feels wrong spending so much time talking to her when you could spend that time talking to Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to think about it in the standpoint of like any other friendship that you have. Okay. So you could say, um, well, why should I spend any time talking to my friends here on earth at all? Why should I have a phone conversation with anybody? Why should I be talking to Keith? Why should I be doing any of this? I could be praying to Jesus. You know, you
Very
you
true.
you could say that about anything. It's almost like it's like one of those situations where you go, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Am I saying that to pray to Mary means I can't pray to Christ directly? Because remember, pray just means to ask. Okay. So we're not putting Mary up at the same level as Christ. I want you to think of her. I know this, some people probably aren't going to like this, but I want you to think of her like in the same way that you would think of anybody else in your life that you would consider to be a holy person that you would want to pray for you. Okay. If that person was
Okay.
walking around like let's say you had a friend who was super holy and you were like, I need someone to pray for me. I'm going to go talk to my friend. And you were going to go have coffee with your friend and then get spiritual advice and talk to your friend about that. Would you say, why am I going to meet with my friend? I could be praying to Jesus right now. You know?
Absolutely not.
No, those would be like in two completely different categories, right? Now you wouldn't not pray to Jesus because you went and talked to your friend, right? You would just, that would
Okay.
be a different part of your life. So when it comes to the intercession of Mary, I don't think that you should ever like not pray to Jesus because you're praying and asking Mary's intercession. It should never be like either or. Okay. And what you discover with a lot of Catholics, hopefully, is that they spend way more time in prayer than your average Baptist or your average Methodist. It's just, I mean, that's just my own personal experience. Okay. When we used to do like prayer services and prayer gatherings, like people were just like, okay, they say their little prayers and Catholics are like maniacs for praying. They just want to
Yes,
pray
they are.
all the time. Okay. And one of the reasons why is because there's so many cool parts to that. So if that's something that you struggle with, I think it's okay. You don't have to do that, but don't put that the asking of intercession of Mary in the same category as praying to Jesus. Okay, they're not the same thing. So think of her the way you would think of someone else who's closer to God for you, okay, that you would talk to. But she doesn't take the place of Jesus. Obviously, her role is to say, hey, get to my son. She wants to bring you to Jesus, 100%. Does that make sense at all?
I yeah, I think that that really helped because I can mentally go, okay, this is my daily coffee talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then yeah, that is yeah, that helps so much.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. Okay. Now let's go back to your first question. Um, I think you have to ask yourself what's drawing you to Catholicism, and you don't just show up to the door of the Catholic Church and go, "Hey, cool! I think Catholic stuff is awesome. Let me be Catholic." You go through a process to join the church. You go through like it takes some time because the church wants you to understand the most important parts of what it teaches, so that when you become a Catholic, you're set up for success. So,
So I have gone through RCIA.
okay.
So I did last September to Easter of this year. Um, I'm still going through an annulment process. Um, so I'm on my way. I just like if my annulment were to come through today, I don't know if I would be like, all right, let's do this thing. So I've been looking into the church since Easter of 23.
So what if your annulment came through, right? And there was nothing like standing in the way from the church's perspective. What is it that would hold you back from becoming Catholic?
I think I'm just afraid of diving in and in a sense marrying the church and then what if there's a doctrine that I haven't learned yet that I don't agree with or that might not be right and then I've married a church and it's not the right place.
Okay.
Because I in a sense I married the Mormon church and that was
Yeah.
not the right place. So I just don't know how sure I need to be and how sound in the acceptance of the church before going, yes, this
Mm,
is the one. Because I've hopped around in different churches for the past 25 years and
sure.
I'm ready to find that Forever Church. And I'm like
Yeah.
90% sure that it's the Catholic Church. It's just that 10% that scares me of taking another leap and leaping the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I think I love your honesty, and I love that your heart is to just, you want to do the right thing. Um, and I completely understand that. And I think that's smart to a certain degree, to say, I don't want to jump in on something and then later find out, oh man, I didn't know that they taught that you're supposed to sacrifice a chicken on Halloween or something like that. I mean, I'm just making that up.
Exactly.
But okay, so a couple things. First of all, you have to take some refuge in the fact that the Catholic Church has been around for 2,000 years. Okay. So there's not like some secret backdoor hidden thing, okay, that you're going to find out, like a secret handshake or something that you're going to find out that you didn't already know. Now, will there be things that you discover? Sure. But I would say this, if you've gone through RCIA, you've probably learned everything you need to know, in terms of, like, I doubt you're going to be caught off guard by something, but you also have to remember this. Part of becoming Catholic is taking yourself out of the driver's seat. It's taking yourself out of that place of authority where you say, all right, I just have to find that church that agrees with me. And once I find that perfect church that agrees with me, I'll join it. But what if I don't? And I'm not saying you're doing that, but that's a very common thing in, like, the Protestant world, that I'm sure you've seen this a million times. People are bouncing around from church to church looking for the one that agrees with them. And they think they find it. They like it. They go there. It sounds great. The pastor's awesome. And then out of nowhere, they find something or they hear something that they didn't know about. The pastor says, oh yeah, by the way, we believe in, X, Y, or Z. And the person goes, oh man, I can't be at this church anymore. I don't agree with that. And then they leave and it starts all over. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah, I think part of my fear, so the Baptist church I grew up in was one of the churches that, like, on Wednesday nights would actively teach you how to prove other denominations wrong. And if you can find one thing wrong in their teachings, then the whole church is wrong. And so I think it's more of I'm afraid of, like, what if I find that one thing that's wrong? Because then that means that the whole church,
Yeah.
is wrong. So so I don't think it's a how I feel thing. I think it's more of just I don't know. I'm afraid of finding out that yes, chickens are sacrificed on Halloween.
Okay. Well, okay. So at some point in time, you're going to have to just take a leap, with something, right? I mean, because if that's going to be your situation, you're going to feel that way about everywhere you go, right?
Yeah.
So at some point in time, you're just going to have to just offer that to the Lord. And a lot of converts do this. We go, okay, Jesus, I really believe the Catholic Church is true. If it's wrong, please show me and please forgive me, or whatever. You know what? He can take that. He can take that. What I think you're going to discover is that the difference between the Catholic Church and every other denomination, and I'm sure your Baptist church put the Catholic Church in the same bucket of everybody else, right?
A
But
little bit worse, actually.
probably worse. Yep. But the thing that's different about the Catholic Church is that it goes all the way back to Jesus, and it traces its authority back to Jesus. You know this. You went through RCIA. So what that's going to inherently mean is this, and this is good. This is the key for you, okay? And I know that because it was a key for me too. You right now, you only need to be sure of two things. You need to be sure that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist, okay? That's the truth. And you need to be sure that Jesus founded the Catholic Church and that he gave his authority to the apostles and with Peter as the chief. Okay, so you have to believe in the authority of the papacy, of the church's teaching. If you believe those two things, then everything else will literally fall into place, because what will happen is if you run into something that you go, whoa, I didn't know the church taught that. That seems crazy to me. Well, instead of just going, okay, well then I'm out. You think, okay, well maybe I need to learn more. And maybe I'm the one that's wrong and not the church. That is a completely foreign concept to many people out in Protestant land, because they just go, well, it's just me and the Bible, right? And I'm just going to go where I can find someone who agrees with what I think. But in Catholicism, you're submitting yourself to the church that's been given the authority by Christ to teach the Christian faith. So if there's ever a disparity between what I believe and what the church teaches, I have to submit myself to the church. So there won't be this hypothetical situation where I go, all right, I've become Catholic, and then later I found out that the church was wrong. Now, hold on a minute. That doesn't mean that the Catholic Church has never been wrong. It just, you have to understand what are the things that the church won't ever be wrong about. The church could be wrong about scientific things. The church could be wrong about historical things. The church could be wrong about political things. So those things don't rise to the level of like infallible teaching. Can the church ever be wrong about a dogmatically defined article of faith? And that's really what you got to focus in on, because you don't have to believe in the things that people say that aren't dogmatically defined. Now, yeah, the normal, ordinary magisterium of the church, we're to believe that. But people get into this stuff all the time. They're like, well, what happens if the Pope or something says something a little wacky or whatever? Well, he can be wrong. He can be wrong. But what he's not wrong on are matters of faith and morals, things that bind the whole church to his teaching. So if that ever happens, that's when you step back and go, wait a minute, okay, I need to submit myself to the authority of the church. You don't have to do that in Protestant land, because they're just men like everybody else with opinions like everybody else. The Catholic Church is different. And that's the thing that people have to understand. You can't compare apples to oranges. You gotta remember, what is the claim of the Catholic Church? Where does that authority come from? And if you believe that is the church that was founded by Christ, okay, now some people go, well, that's a circular argument because you gotta believe in that. Like I said, you gotta take a leap at some point in time. That's just part of being a human being, okay? Yes, you have to decide that you believe that. Nobody just shows up to life believing that, okay? God gives us
Be too
grace.
easy.
It would be. Well, God gives us grace, but then he shows us, he reveals that truth to us, but then we have to decide whether or not we believe it or not. So we have to make that choice. So that's what I would say is, like, you may never not have that fear at some level, but I think you just have to take a leap of faith and trust that Jesus knew what he was doing when he started the Catholic Church, and that you can trust him. Remember, it doesn't mean that the Catholic Church is perfect in every way. Nobody makes that claim, okay? But the Catholic Church is going to give you the fullness of Christianity, and you can trust what the church teaches in terms of what the Christian faith is and how it's brought to you. Does that help at all?
Very much so. Yes. Thank you
Awesome.
very much for your time.
Well, thank you for jumping on here, and thank you for your vulnerability and for your honesty, Jen. It's really, I love having conversations like this. I think it's cool that however many people, a couple hundred, 300 other people are watching this conversation as well. And I guarantee you that there are other people that have some of the same questions that you have. So thank you for bringing those questions here.
Absolutely. And thank you for your YouTube channel and all that you do. I know there are millions of people that you are helping. So,
oh, geez. Well,
yeah.
Praise the Lord. All right. God bless you, Jen. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right, my friends. That's so cool. What an amazing time to get to share those moments of questioning together. Hopefully we do that. All right, friends. I'm going to jump back up here and look for some more questions. Again, I apologize for I'm sure missing some, but again, when I have a guest, I like to focus 100% on that person. So let's see what we got going on here. I know I did see a bunch. Okay. All right, here. Courtney Higginbotham 3496. Question. What advice? I probably don't need to say question. What advice do you have for a wife who wants to convert to Catholicism but husband isn't interested? How does this work with marital roles? Okay. I guess my advice, if your husband isn't interested, then I'm assuming that means he doesn't care, which means he wouldn't stand in your way and stop you. I say become Catholic, live out your Catholic faith in front of your uncaring husband, and you know, maybe that might change. So you might have a different outcome there with your husband after you do that. But if your husband is like, so the marital roles, I don't think the marital roles change, honestly. I think wives submit to husbands, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a Catholic if he's not interested. So I think you should move forward with that. And, hopefully when you say interested means he's not like trying to prevent you to do that. Okay. But thank you for the question. All right. We've got another question here from Hope Byers, who says, I'm converting, just feel like some days I wasted my life at the church I grew up believing the things they taught me. How do you combat that? Hey, you know what? Don't look back. Move forward. And you didn't waste your life. Okay? You didn't waste your life. Everything, you got to remember this. Everything that you were taught and did and all that stuff led you to this point. So just give thanks to God you're where you are, and don't be hung up on that. I know it's hard. I've done the same thing, but just be thankful where you are now and move forward. Okay. We've got a guest coming up here in just a minute. Rodrigo's back there. Just hang with me here for a second. I want to get through a couple of these. Free mind and speech. Hi, Keith. What do you think about synodality and ecumenism in the Catholic Church? Do you think it can be manipulated to fray our core beliefs doctrine? Well, this is a little above my pay grade, so my answer is just my personal opinion. But yeah, I do think it can be manipulated to fray our core beliefs and doc. I don't think I don't worry about the Catholic Church all of a sudden now like making up some unbiblical heretical doctrine because of this kind of stuff, but I think that it can take us off course. I don't really understand the point of it, to be honest with you. As a Catholic who loves the authority of the church, I don't get all this other, what appears to be goofy synodality and all this kind of stuff. I don't need that. I just need the Pope to say what's up and the church to teach. I don't need everybody else's input, but that's just me. All right. Let's see here. Country Boy 78. Hey, Keith, what's your opinion on evolution? I was learning towards the idea of blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the deal. I don't buy it. I don't believe in evolution. I never have, and I just don't think it makes sense to me. I believe in creationism, and I know there's people, oh, what about theistic evolution? I don't believe that either. Okay, I don't think that you can have these organisms that out of nowhere, like these biomechanical things just changed to make all these things happen. Am I a scientist? No. Okay. Whatever happens, God was right, but I don't believe that. All right. Let's go here. Can we live out our purgatory here on earth? Well, yeah, we can do our penance here on earth. That would be our goal, I would think. It's different than purgatory, I would think. It's probably easier here on earth to live out your penance than it is there, but I think that should be our goal to do that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and grab Rodrigo here. Rodrigo, how you doing, buddy? Hold on a second here. Where'd you go? Can you hear me? Oh, I think Rodrigo is gone. Rodrigo, if you can hear me, call back. But I'm not seeing you. Okay. Raul Torres. Raul. Hey, Raul, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's nice to be here and see all you guys.
Oh, it's good to be with you. Hey, Rodrigo, if you can hear me, wave at me right now. Can you hear me? Okay, I'll be with you right after this, brother. For some reason, you dropped off. Okay, he's hanging in there. Oh, it's good to have you. Where are you calling from, Raul?
I'm calling from Texas.
Nice. Love me some Texas. I was down there not too
Yeah.
long ago.
Yeah. First of all, I was just listening in, right? And I absolutely love your statement on creationism, evolution. Like I was an atheist growing up, and I was so sold on it, and then came to Christianity, and I was like, dude, this is just so much bogus, right? Like
Nice.
it like yeah, like you just uh we didn't come from fish, right? Like God spoke what he spoke and all that stuff.
That's what I feel,
Um
man.
yeah, yeah, it's very clear. So I'm not Catholic, right? I'm not here to like debate or anything, right?
Sure, sure.
Because I actually stand with an organization. Have you ever heard of Abolitionists Rising?
No.
So we're an organization dedicated to abolishing abortion in the United States of
Oh,
America.
well, we're with you
And
on that, brother.
yeah, dude, I'm not here to like, well, I'm just here to spread the message of it, right? Because I think it's something that we as Christians have kind of turned our eyes to because we're not exactly a pro-life movement, right? Like we believe that abortion is murder, that it should be tried as murder and stuff like that. And I think it's very important that we uphold God's standard of justice, right? So I just like I feel like there's a lot of apathy in the culture regarding it. So I just wanted kind of to get your opinions on it maybe and see what other people in chat have to say about it as well.
Well, I mean, if you're talking to Catholics, you're going to find no more hardcore pro-life people than you're going to find in the Catholic Church.
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%,
I've met
100%. So,
some.
so I don't
Mhm.
I don't think that you're going to find anybody who's going to disagree with that. I think the Catholic Church
Yeah.
forever has placed the highest level of priority and love for the unborn. And I mean, you got people in my city, you drive by Planned Parenthood, who's out there praying? It ain't the Methodists, it ain't the Presbyterians,
Mhm.
it's the Catholics, And I guarantee you
Yeah.
this, brother,
Yeah.
if a Baptist or a Lutheran or whatever wanted to come pray with our Catholic brothers and sisters outside abortion clinic, they would be welcomed with open arms. No one is
Oh
going to
yeah,
say
I totally imagine.
so we
Totally
lock arms
imagine.
with anybody in that cause, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, man. I just I'm very wary about like passages like Leviticus 20, uh, where God's talking about sacrificing children to Moloch, which is just modern day abortion, right? And how he says he'll
100%.
judge nations if we even turn our eyes to it. Not even if we're like just permissive, or not even if we're like engaged in it actively, but if we're just permissive of it in general, right? Then he's actually
Yeah.
gonna like judge, and
I
it's
think
super
it's
scary. Like
yeah.
I don't want to be judged by God.
I don't either, and I think I think the evil of abortion is a greater level of evil than any of us even can comprehend in the eyes of God.
Oh,
And I think that
100%.
that again, I give thanks for the church who is willing to do all she can to stand against that in prayer. I mean, we pray the rosary every day on YouTube on my
Mhm.
channel, and we end every decade of the rosary with a prayer for the unborn. Every single decade, Jesus protect and save the
Yeah.
unborn. Um, well, keep up your great work, my brother, and I'm glad that you're here. And I
Yeah.
want to just encourage you to keep up the fight, Raul. Okay.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, but I'm just, a little venue. If you guys want to actually have an organization to participate in, it's Abolitionist Rising. You can find them on YouTube. I think it's like 300,000 subscribers. But just a venue to help participate in case anyone was wanting to actually fight up and stand against evil in our culture.
Amen, brother. All right, my friend. God bless
Amen.
you.
All right. God bless you too, man.
Take care, brother. All right, now we got Mr. Rodrigo. Now you're back. All right, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Keith.
Good to see you.
Doing good, thank you.
Okay,
Good
okay.
to
Well,
see you. Thanks for having me here.
thanks for jumping in. What's your question?
Yeah, so it was, well, as a preamble, I'm gonna tell you that I'm Catholic, right? But I have a question defending iconograph, statues and whatever. So I've heard this argument that, like in Exodus, like in the other books where Moses and the others were making like the Ark of the Covenant, the serpent on pole,
Mm-hmm.
and the decoration of the temple. They are just like for that specific moment and for that specific people. So I've heard this Protestant argument that if we do that, since we're not at that time, and since we're not like directly commissioned by God to do those. icons and images, that's idolatry. So how could someone defend that?
Well, I think there's a lot of presuppositions there. Okay, so if someone was to say, well, wait a minute, you weren't in Exodus, you weren't in these places, so therefore you can't use why not? Like it depends on what is going on with that. Okay, so an icon or an image or whatever that helps bring to mind the person that it represents, the holy person that represents or God, you know, there's an assumption that's being made there that unless you have some sort of direct command to do so, that it's wrong. But I guess I would challenge that assumption and say, well, why? Why? If keeping in mind that you don't worship the icon, you don't worship the image or statue, that's a no-brainer to me. But why would somebody say then that that's if you see that in the scriptures and the Christians have always done that, then why would somebody think that was wrong?
I was talking to someone I know, and she said like, no, this is what I've been told in my evangelical church. So that's idolatry, and
Yeah.
she supports the argument, telling me that we're not commissioned directly by God to make the iconography or whatever, like like Moses with the serpent or the Ark of the Covenant. So I just wanted to get like a response for
Yeah.
her
Okay.
because
So I think so. Basically, what you're saying is your friend is saying to you that, these things are forbidden, and then when you bring up the ones about the serpent on the pole and the Ark of the Covenant, she says, "Okay, well then, those are the exceptions, right?" That
yep.
again, you got to push back on that. You got to push back and say, "Well, why are those the exceptions? If we see evidence of this in Scripture, we see the people of God doing this, then." That's her problem, not yours, I would say. And you could do that with anything. You could say,
Yeah.
well, people were told to serve the poor in the Bible, but that doesn't mean you have to serve the poor. You weren't the one in the Bible that was told to serve the poor. You see what I'm saying? Like you could do that about literally anything that goes on in the Bible. You could say, well, in the Bible, people prayed for one another, right? They prayed for one another. They interceded on behalf. And you could say, okay, well, I should do that. Well, no, you shouldn't do that. They did that. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like her argument doesn't line up. So I would just say, I would need you to show me why I can't do something where it's forbidden for me to do this, given the fact that this is what Christianity has always done. And we see it evidenced in the Bible, So that's how I would respond.
Okay.
But it just sounds to me like she's got like this wackadoo idea of like, oh, Catholics do this bad stuff and that can't be right. So whatever you say, there's got to be a reason for it. You don't have to fall for that, man. I would say to her, I'd be like, no, we see this in the Bible. This is a holy thing to do. This is what the Christians have always done. If you have a problem with it, that's your problem. You can say that.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Hey, God bless you, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I already exposed the case to her.
Yeah.
So supporting, like with the Bible, but thanks. That helps me.
You've got the Bible on your side, brother.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you for calling in. Take care, Rodrigo. All right. Great questions. Sometimes we have to, sometimes we Catholics, we think that like we have to defend our position as though it's not the default position, as though the anti-Catholic position is the default position and we have to justify that. You just saw, that's what our brother's going through there. You got scripture on your side. You got the history of the church on your side. You got all these practices on your side. Don't let somebody try to take that away from you. You can't do that. All right. Man, I know I'm way behind on questions, but that's okay. This is a ton of fun. Thank you guys for hanging around and being here. Super awesome. All right. I'm going to work my way back up here and see what's up here with some of these questions. Okay, this one's pretty important. This guy says, Keith, I have a pretty important question. If you're Catholic, should you support any pro-abortion bill or should you support a pro-abortion ban? I understand the separation of church and state. Okay, 100% you should support any abortion ban. You should oppose any abortion bill. Anything that promotes abortion, gone. Anything that seeks to outlaw abortion, we vote yes on. Church and state has nothing to do with that. You can make the case that abortion is evil, horrible thing without even talking about religion. You can talk about it from the standpoint of, is that a good thing for society in general to murder their babies? Absolutely not. So, but we're not robots. We separation of church and state was never meant to mean that you check your faith at the door when you vote. It just means that the state can't regulate the church. So 100% get rid of all that stuff, man. All right. Question: how can you balance research with Rachel? How you doing, Rachel? Okay, how can you balance? Oh, hold on, we got another guy joining here in a second. Here, let me put him in the green room. How can you balance asking for truth-seeking questions as you enter into the Catholic Church with not speaking against the Church's teachings? If they're true, they will stand up to questions. Oh yeah, you can absolutely ask any question you want, Rachel. Ask away. The church loves that. Believe me, priests love that. People in the church leader, they love when you ask the questions because it gives them an opportunity to share how they got the answers. So you do not need to check your brain at the door to become Catholic. You don't need to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not allowed to question anything. No. You can do that. The most brilliant intellectual minds that question everything are all Catholics. So you can do that, okay? What you can't do though is show up going, well, it's my way and, or the highway. That's not going to work. But you can certainly ask the questions. I have never run into any trouble doing that. So absolutely do that. Do that. All right. We've got Andrew in the green room. Hang in there, Andrew. I'm going to get through a couple of these questions and you're up, buddy. Okay. Just get ready. All right. Hi, Keith. Speaking out of ecumenism, what are your thoughts on the Pope allowing Islamic prayer in the Vatican? What's next? Okay. So here's the deal. And I am not a Pope splainer. I'm not, whatever. But from what I understand, this might have been blown out of proportion just a little bit. From what I understand, and this is the issue of the Muslim people that went to a Vatican library that is open to people from all faiths. Okay, the Vatican library has all these books. People that aren't Catholic are welcome to come to see the books, and from what I understand, it's a pretty laborious process to get through all the security, all the screening, get down to where you're going. And they got there, and the Muslim dudes were like, "Hey, we need to do our prayers," and rather than make them go all the way out, back up the thing, somebody basically just said, "You guys can go over there and pray." And they went over, I don't know what kind of room it was, but it wasn't like the church invented a room and said, "Hey, we want to have a Muslim prayer room here." And it was like, "Oh, we can't wait. This is going to be great. Next week, we're going to open up our new Muslim prayer room. Isn't it great, everybody?" It wasn't that, okay? It was these guys, these scholars, these Muslim scholars came to the Vatican, to the library, not the Vatican itself, but the library, and they wanted to pray, and someone said, "You guys can go over there and pray." Now, you might argue against that. You might think that was a bad idea, okay? I might agree with you. You might say, well, where's that? They do that in Mecca? No, they don't, but who cares? I don't care what they do in Mecca. When Catholics get all bent out of shape about that and say, well, they don't let us do that over in Mecca, I don't want to go to Mecca. There's nothing over there for me, okay? So don't even go there in your mind. We're not called to treat each other based on how they treat us anyway. Okay, so the fact that some person that works at the Vatican said, yeah, you guys can go over there and pray, that doesn't mean that the Vatican created an Islamic prayer room. Okay, you may not like what happened, I may not like what happened, but let's not turn it into something that it wasn't. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't there. Okay, I wasn't there, but that's just when I saw people talking about this, and some people were like totally wigging out about it. Some other people were saying, no, this is kind of a little bit more of a realistic picture of what happened. All right, Andrew, here we go, buddy. It's time for you to come on and hang out with me. What's up? Where's Andrew? Here he comes. Boom, boom, boom. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I'm still struggling with the whole Protestant, because I'm just a Christian and I'm looking into stuff. I'm still struggling with the accusation that you guys think that you can earn your salvation. And
Yeah.
I get that you're saying it's not just works. You have to have faith too. But they'll say something like, well, then it's like 50% Jesus who's responsible for my salvation and 50% me, you know. So even if it's partly our works that contribute to our salvation, how would that not mean that we get at least partial credit for getting saved?
Okay.
You know?
Good. I think it's a great question. But I want to acknowledge something here. This whole concept of partial credit, 50%, this and that, that is a human invention. That is not a category that God even deals in. Like, it's not a question of credit this, credit that. Okay. So the Catechism of the Catholic Church says the following. It says that we can't even respond to whatever God does without God's grace. So God's grace has to be given to us before we can even obey him in any way. So whatever happens downstream of that, no matter what we have to do, God still gets all of the credit. Okay. So no human being, and this is why the whole earning your salvation thing is kind of an issue, because to earn your salvation means that you can do something apart from God to attain salvation. And that is like the exact opposite of what the Catholic Church teaches. You can't do anything on your own to merit or earn salvation. Nothing. You must have God's grace in order to do that. The thing where we get hung up with Protestants that talk about this is this idea of faith alone. Okay? Faith alone. What does that even mean? Again, this is a category that really shouldn't even exist, because faith in and of itself can't be alone. The Bible says that, okay? Faith without works is dead. It doesn't exist. It's a non-thing. So what works are not this separate category that you have to add to faith. This is where I think people get screwed up, dude, because a lot of people think that's what Catholicism teaches, that you have your faith and that's what saves you, but then you got to add works to your faith. That's not what Catholicism teaches. Catholicism teaches that what faith even means is the working out of what God is doing in your life. That's all part of faith, right? The just shall live by faith. Habakkuk 2 verse 4, right? So this is what it's talking about. And James unpacks this. He says, look, you can't separate these two things. You separate it, they're dead. So it's not a matter of you got faith and you got works, and Protestants believe that you just need faith, and Catholics believe that, they'll still believe you have to have faith, but you got to have some works too. If you don't respond to what God's doing in your life, if you don't cooperate with that grace, however you want to put that, then you haven't really had faith, is my point. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, but why couldn't you just accept faith alone then? Because a lot of Protestants will also say, yeah, if you don't have faith, if you don't have works, then you don't have faith.
Well, okay. So great question. The truth is, here's the deal. If we rightly understand what faith means, then I think you can, in some sense, say faith alone. I think you can and here's the sense I mean, understanding that faith is not just an intellectual assent or just something that you do in your mind, that faith involves the obedience and the working out of your salvation, that's all part of faith. Think of faith as the word faithfulness. What does that mean? It's not just like a thought that you have in your mind. But see, what's happened is the Protestant mind has reduced faith to just a belief, right? Because if I said, well, define what faith is for me, you're going to talk about like, okay, well, it's believing in Jesus, right? It's believing that he died on a cross, that he's the Son of God, that he rose again on the third day, and you put your trust in him. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? That in and of itself is a work, isn't it?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
well, I think, but you also have to get into what is a work, right?
Mm-hmm. Bingo. You absolutely do. That's the point. That is my exact point. You have to define what that means. And what James says is that you can't even separate the two things, right? That if you take them apart, that if you take the works away from faith, then it's dead. Like it's not like this separate organism and these two things that like this leads to that. No, it's like they're intricately linked. You can't separate them.
Yeah, I could agree with that, but it does seem like Paul does kind of talk about them not being something that just goes together,
Where does he talk about that?
Well, I mean, I know that you're going to say he's just talking about circumcision or something like that when he says, like, faith apart from works of the law, right?
Yes. That's a key distinction you have to make is when Paul is talking about, when he's talking about works and he's talking like what he's actually referring to specifically. That's a huge thing. You got to understand the difference. Because Christ himself talks about, look, if you love me, you'll obey my commands. Christ gives us all these commands that he connects to salvation. He says, you got to do these things. That's part of faith, right? So if we can recognize that faith working through love, like this is all encompassing of faith. It's not a separate thing, right? When Paul talks about the works, he's talking about the works of the law. He's saying we're not saved by the works of the law, lest any man could boast. We're saved by what God has done. And our cooperation with that is part of what it means to have faith. And God still gets all the credit because it's only by God's grace that we can even do anything.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you here. It just sounds like you want to stop short at saying, like, I can know with 100% certainty that I'm saved and that I'm saved solely by faith and, like, I don't need to do anything else.
Okay, wait, so hold on. You did it. You did it. First of all, we can talk about eternal security in a minute, but when you said I don't need to do anything else, what are you talking about?
Like, I guess if you just put your trust in Jesus Christ, if you trust that promise that he'll save you, then that will, like, free you up, and then you can do good works out of, like, gratitude for him, or out of the fact that if you really trust Jesus, that will make it possible for you to actually do good works. Is this kind of making sense?
Well, let me ask you, okay, so just randomly pick a good work. Just name a good work to me.
Feeding a homeless guy.
Okay, feeding a homeless person. Great work. Do you have to believe in Jesus to do that work?
No.
Okay, so you don't need faith in order to do that good work? What
That's
good
true.
work do you have to have faith in order to do?
What good work do I have to have faith in order to do?
Yeah, because people do this a
question.
lot. They'll say things like, "Well, we do good works as a result of our salvation, right? Our salvation enables us to do these good works." But I would love to have somebody tell me an example of a good work that you can't do without being saved.
Well, but I think the point might be that you can do all the good works ever, but if you don't have faith in Jesus Christ, it isn't going to benefit you anything.
Agreed.
You know?
100%. That's what the Catholic Church teaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to see where the difference is, because I think maybe, like, I think it's been overblown. Like, there's not that much of a division between the Protestant and Catholic perspective on it.
I will tell you where the difference is, okay? I will tell you where the difference is. The difference comes when Protestants try to separate faith and works into two distinct categories, when they want to say that having faith has nothing to do with works. When they want to reduce faith to something that happens only in your mind. And it's funny because they'll even destroy their own selves with their Bible verses. They'll say, oh, Romans 10:29 or whatever it says, if you confess, right? If you believe in your heart and you confess with your lips, you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you will be saved, right? To the glory of God. And they go, see, faith alone. But what they don't understand is they just listed two things that you have to do. You have to believe, and then you have to confess. That's doing something. Okay? So is that not like that's doing something? So there's,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
well,
Like,
it depends on what. Yeah, but it depends on what Protestant I think you talk to, because some are gonna get like super nitpicky about that stuff, and I've even heard debates between people who think you can't, saying the sinner's prayer can't be something that will get you salvation because you're doing something, and others say no, you have to say the sinner's prayer to be saved. So they have
well,
that kind of argument, but I think in a certain Protestant perspective, you could say, well, there's a difference between just actions and good works. Does that kind of make sense?
well, I
There's
don't know.
stuff you do.
So here's the thing. You can go round and round and like try to come up with all these different categories of what's a work, what's not a work, and what counts, what doesn't count. You can do that. I say, what's the point? What's the point? Just believe in Jesus and obey his commands. That's what the Bible says. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling, if you want to say that, right? But understand that it's God's grace. So it's recognizing that it's all by God's grace, that he's given us this grace so that we can respond to him. We have to have faith in him. We have to believe the right things about him, but we also have to follow what he said. I don't see why that has to be so tough. We can spend more energy trying to argue against, all this stuff than we would just doing what the Lord's called us to do and not even have to worry about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Here's where I maybe get worried because I don't think we're saying something that different. Do you think so?
I don't know. That's my problem is I never know what people actually mean sometimes, because when we start having these conversations, when we dig deeper into the layers, sometimes it reveals that we're really saying the same thing, and sometimes it reveals that we're miles apart. But it's hard to tell.
Right, and so maybe where I'm getting a little worried is it seems like maybe the Catholic position kind of turns one's gaze inward a little bit. And that's where I kind of get worried, especially with the stuff about like mortal sin. And sometimes it's just like eating meat on Friday or not going to Mass. And that could get you damned if you do it with full knowledge and full consent of the will. I feel like it kind of makes people look inward to tell if they're really gonna be saved or not. And I think you should always be looking like outward. Look to Christ. Look what he did on the cross. You should be turning your gaze outward. You shouldn't look inside yourself because you're just gonna find nothing but sin in there.
Okay.
You know?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to do both. Okay. I think that we need to obviously recognize that our salvation comes from Christ, but we need to be looking inward to see, like St. Paul says, we should be testing ourselves, right? We should be examining ourselves to see if we're in the faith. That's what the scripture says. Examine yourself to make sure you're in the faith. You should be, oh, he's muted. Okay. Are you still there, brother? Hopefully okay. I'm going to keep talking if Andrew comes back. He's muted himself, but we should examine ourselves to see if we're in the faith. That scripture tells us that. We should be working out our salvation with fear and trembling. We should be doing all that we can do to be obedient to the Lord. We should make sure that we're doing what we can. There's no problem with that. We can't ignore who we are and just go, well, it's nothing about me. No, I got to follow Jesus. Okay. Andrew, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for calling in. You've muted yourself, so I don't know if you're coming back or whatever, but I hope you call back sometime. But in the meantime, we've got Christina. You are here with me on a walk in where are you? Like in Hawaii or something? You're muted. I can't hear you though.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, you're in LA. Okay, figures. You got a big smile on your face. You must be in Southern California.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my kiddos out of the house, so we're just taking a little walk. But I really appreciate you doing this every week. I get so much from it. My question is actually about yoga.
Okay.
So I know it's kind of out there, but I'm actually a recent revert, and I no longer practice yoga because I think it played a big role in my falling away from the church. I thought I was just doing exercise. Before you knew it, I was a Buddhist, and then I was a cult and witch and all kinds of stuff. And I thought Jesus was just an enlightened man for a while. I was very lost. So my point is, I have a dear friend, a beautiful person. She's coming into town, and every year we do this annual yoga thing. And my soul is telling me, I shouldn't partake this year. But I'm not sure if I really have basis for that or how I should tell her. Or just if you have any kind of wisdom on that, or if you've come across that before.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think you're smart to avoid that. And I think this is a great opportunity for you to talk to your friend about your reversion to Catholicism, but here's the deal. I don't think you should start, like, you don't open the conversation by going, hey, by the way, yoga is demonic and terrible. It's going to make you a crazy person. I don't think you start with that. I think you start with, I got to tell you about what's been happening in my life lately. I've reverted back to my Catholic faith, and it's amazing, and it's really changing a lot of things in my life. I'm so excited about it. It's the best thing ever. But it is changing some things. And one of the things that it's caused me to do is reflect on all the yoga I've been doing. And I've just decided I'm not doing it anymore. Don't make it about your friend. Don't be like, you shouldn't do it. But you just kind of like share with her of what the difference that the faith has made in your life. And then you just be like, and so I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not here to pass judgment on you. I'd love to talk with you more about it if you want. But just because of my faith, it's not something I feel comfortable with anymore. And hopefully your friend will be like, wow, okay, tell me more about that. But 100% you should follow your conscience on that.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I just wanted to say one thing because you really helped me here. Between you and Gabby After Hours, my husband was a Protestant, and I got the idea from Gabby to start praying a rosary, dedicate a rosary every day, that he become a saint.
Beautiful.
And on the 50th day, Pope Leo became Pope. And that was the day after he said, if we ever get an American Pope, I'll become a Catholic.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. And on day 100 of me saying the rosary, dedicating it for my husband to become a saint, he joined OCIA.
Wow.
I never thought it would ever happen. And he is into it. He is on fire. And the part where you play in is you gave me the amazing advice just to be as joyful as possible in my faith and not to push anything on him. And at the time, I mean, it was the most perfect, brilliant advice, along with dedicating the rosary to him becoming a saint. So
well,
I'm going to keep it up for the rest of my life. I'm not giving it up.
Beautiful. That blesses me so much. I want you to greet your kids and your husband for me, okay? And tell your husband and welcome home.
I will. Thank you so much, Keith.
All right. God bless you, Christina. Thanks for calling in.
God bless.
All right. Oh, how awesome is that? That just made my day, man. That just made my day. My wife is in here. That's amazing. Woohoo! All right. All right. I know I'm way behind. I'm gonna get off here pretty soon. But I'm gonna try to grab a few of these questions. Again, man, I'm sorry, you guys. This is so awesome that what's up, Mr. Kenny Bouchard? Talking about you earlier in here. I like Aaron's answer here. Yoga, no, next question. Okay. I love the fact that we get to do this. And thank you guys for taking time to jump in here with your questions. And again, I apologize if I miss them. So let's see here. I'm just going to grab some random ones here. Death Wish. How you doing, man? How can someone of good faith leave Catholicism, join Protestantism, and feel closer to Jesus? Well, I think that your issue there is good faith. How can someone of good faith leave Catholicism? Man, I don't know, man. I question the same thing. Since I've been Catholic, I don't get that. I don't get how somebody could do that. It only makes me question whether or not they really have good faith. So I don't know. It's super awesome. Okay, a couple more here, and then we got one more guest. Jonathan, you're back there. I see you, buddy. I'm gonna hop on you in a second in your question in your chat here. Okay, this one's been here for a little bit. Is the Marian title co-redeemer too far? It's not co-redeemer, it's co-redemptrix. My Protestant friends believe that is unbiblical, stealing from the redemptive work of Christ. Okay, this is a question I answered on the Steve Day show. First of all, the church hasn't officially said anything about that, hasn't ruled on that. So we have to make sure that we keep that under, that we remember that. Depends on what you mean by co. If co means with, then I agree with that. If co means equal, then I don't agree with that. And I don't know anybody, even the people who are for these titles, that say that Mary is co-equal with Jesus. So I think that your Protestant friends believe it's unbiblical. Well, your Protestant friends are going to believe a lot of things are unbiblical because that's just what they do. But keep in mind that we have to understand what those words mean. Okay, if co means with, as in that's the role that she played to bring Christ to the earth. I mean, it's pretty hard to take that away from her. She's the vessel by which Christ came to the world. Without her, kind of tough, right? So with, yes, indeed, our redemption is made possible with Mary, okay? Because of Christ, but with Mary. That was his idea. She didn't like create that, he did, okay? But it doesn't mean that she is equal to him. Okay. All right, let me grab Ryan here. What about if you just don't believe in the teaching on the Eucharist and still love Jesus deeply and do their best not to sin? Well, I mean, you got to believe Jesus. If you love Jesus deeply, you're going to believe what he said. He said, this is my flesh, this is my blood, right? This is my body, this is my blood. My flesh is true food, my blood is true drink. So if you love Jesus, absolutely, but believe what he has to say, my friend. Believe what he has to say. All right. Thoughts about Father Mike Schmitz? He's touring and will be in Austin, Texas. I think you should. Father Mike is awesome. All right. And I think we already answered that question. We already answered that question. So now we are going to go to what I think is probably going to be our last guest for the night. But Mr. Jonathan is here with us. Jonathan, how you doing, buddy? You're muted.
Hey, how you doing?
There you
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Sorry about that. I was wondering. So I'm a cradle Catholic. I strayed away. I came back to the faith. But I started dating this girl before I reverted back to the faith. And long story short, I came back and now she's an OCIA, but her parents are Hindu, and I'm going to be meeting them for the first time in a long time, in a month or so. And I was wondering how I should approach it in regards to, well, I'll say I really do want to share the faith, because I know they struggle with a lot of things that definitely the faith could help with. But I know how hard-headed they are against Christianity and how they're kind of one-track minded with Hinduism.
Okay. So how old is your girlfriend?
We're both 22.
Okay, so you're adults, all this kind. I think here's the deal, man. I think you should approach them with respect, with love and kindness, and don't approach them like in an adversarial way at all. Okay, just your job is to model Catholicism to them, to be the best Catholic that you can be. And before you ever get a chance to talk about your faith with them, they're going to want to see what kind of man you are. You know, they're going to want to see, are you a good guy? Are you respectful? Are you honest? Are you a good person? And if you show up and you just start blasting them with Catholicism, but you haven't established the kind of man you are first, that could be more dangerous. So focus on showing them the kind of man you are, respectful and honest and a nice guy, and earn that right to have that conversation with them about faith. And then, see where that goes, But when you get to that point, then you can build upon that good rapport. It's kind of like what St. Paul talks about. He says that leaders in the church, and I'm not saying you're a leader in the church, but he says leaders in the church need to be well thought of by outsiders. Okay. And the reason for that is because when they represent the faith, they need to do so on a firm footing of goodwill. And that's going to take a little bit of time to establish. So I would say don't even stress about that right now. And then also pray, ask the Lord to guide you by the power of the Holy Spirit to those opportunities that when you know you're supposed to speak up, that you will in the way that you're supposed to. I think that you will, obviously, eventually. But I think that you don't just like show up, hey, how you doing? I'm Jonathan. Let me tell you why the Catholic Church is the one true church. They're instantly going to be
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, who is this guy? You know?
Yeah.
So
No, thank you.
establish
Yes.
yourself in their life as a trustworthy, positive influence first, and then you're going to have that opportunity. And then I would say this, one other advice once you get to that point. And my advice to you is this: you need to listen as much as you talk, because your ability to enter into their world and understand where they're coming from is going to be reciprocated back to you, Lord willing, to where you get to share with them. If you don't do that, if you just come across as like this arrogant know-it-all guy, then they're going to have walls put up to hearing about the Catholic faith. Okay, so
Yeah.
they probably already have a little bit because their daughter's like, "Whoa, I'm in RCIA. What is this? What she?" So they're probably already going to be a little bit like, "Ah." So
Yeah.
let's disarm that. Let's disarm that and live out the faith in front of them, but not show up with like guns blazing, ready to to do battle. But yeah, I agree 100%. You don't hide your faith from anyone. 100% you don't hide your faith, but you also need to establish yourself as a credible witness in their eyes. And the way that you do that is you just show them the good kind of person that you are, so that when that comes up, you're standing on a stronger foundation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate that. A verse just came to mind too. I'm sorry, I know you're running out of
No.
time, but
Yo, go
when
for it, brother.
Paul talks about I don't know if it was Philippi or not, but in one of the letters he says, "I'm going to feed you with milk and honey rather than meat because you're not ready for it yet."
Yeah.
And compounded with what you said about acting it out and establishing through my actions that, okay, like principally, like you said, they're looking to see if you're a good man for their daughter. I need to act that out first, and then I shouldn't really just dive into deep apologetics. I should more just kind of coast my way into it when the time is right.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. And at the same time though, you live out your Catholic faith like boldly, okay? And when I say boldly, I don't mean like obnoxiously. But I mean,
Hmm.
like, you don't need to tone down what you do in your faith for anybody. So when you pray, you make the sign of the cross. When you're visiting them, you go to mass. Like, you wear you wear your precious medals, and you wear your miraculous medals and your scapular. You pray the rosary. You do the Catholic things. Okay, exactly. You don't ever be like, okay, I got to hide my Catholic faith to not offend them. They're not going to
Yeah.
respect you if you hide it. Okay. So make no bones about that. I'm just talking about, you know how it is. Like, you go into a conversation with someone, you're
Yeah.
not even sure who they are, and they're instantly in your face about something. It doesn't matter what it is. You're not going to listen to them. People don't do that. They don't understand that. It's just like when you meet somebody for the first time, and the first thing they want to tell you is about like some kind of like, you should only drink carrot juice, harvested in the month of June or something like that. And they've got all their weird health advice and their weird goofy things that they want you to do. And it's like instantly, you shouldn't eat that, or you shouldn't drink this, or you shouldn't do that. If you meet somebody for the first time and they start giving you all this goofy advice, you're like, look, I don't even know you. Just because
Yeah.
you said that makes me not want to do it. We can't be
Yeah.
like that with our
Yeah.
faith. They need to be like, wow, this Jonathan guy he's so put together. He's so respectful. He's such a good guy. I want to know more about what makes him tick. Man, it's clear that this guy's a Catholic. So, we need to get to know him, and we need to find out more about that. That's how you do it, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I
Awesome.
Am I allowed to ask two questions, or
Absolutely,
it's
dude.
just
Absolutely.
okay? Thank you. Thank you. I just started teaching a catechism or confirmation class for the first time,
Okay.
and never would I have thought that I'd be in this position. But I'm in a, truth be told, a pretty weak parish, and the kids that I have that are about to be confirmed, they really don't know much, and it's a little terrifying going into it because I only have 10 Sundays before they get confirmed, and I feel like I have to catch them up to the point where they should be, and I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I've been doing my best so far, but I don't know. If you had
Wow.
any tips, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, first of all, this is huge right here. Okay. You said you're in a weak parish, but you've got 10 kids that are about ready to be like gone through this catechism. Make those 10 kids like an army of Catholic warriors devoted to the Blessed Virgin Mary, you know? Like, get those kids praying the rosary every day. Get those kids on fire for their faith. Help them to know their faith. Get this. All right, check this out. Get those kids to sit in the front of the church during mass together, right? You know, if their families aren't there or whatever, like get them just rock solid on fire and let them know, right? 1 Timothy 4:12, right? Don't let anyone look down on you for your youth, but set an example for the believers. That these guys are the ones. Be like, look, let's be honest. You think this church is kind of lame? They'll probably be like, yeah, all right. That's why the Lord's called you guys here. I'm telling you, I've
No,
seen
yeah, that was
a
my
small
first
group of
class.
10
Yeah.
kids transform a church like that.
Good to know. I appreciate your words here. That's how my first class went. I went in and I slowly started regressing once I realized they didn't know as much as I believe they should have for a class that was about to be confirmed. And I don't even want to worry about that on who could be to blame for this at this point. I just want to get them caught up. But
Okay, look at this comment here from President Rapsy. Baltimore Catechism, okay? That's a simple explanation of the faith. And there's an elementary or middle school edition. If you need something simple like that, get that. That's really like for kids, you know, but it's more profound than most adults can deal with. So
Thank you.
that's going to teach them like the hardcore basics of the Catholic faith. Get that going, man. Get that going. And yeah, just reinforce to those kids how important they are. Too many times you hear adults say stupid crap to kids like, oh, well, we got to do something for the kids. They're the future of the church. No, they're not. They're the church right now. Okay?
Yeah.
They are the church right now, just like anybody else. Okay? So let's get them fired up and let them be an example, man. And I think it's awesome that the Lord has got you in that position, man. And then look at this over here. One other thing I want to show you. Erwin says, I wish we had 10 kids in our class. That's see, you gotta keep in mind what you got going on, man. That's a pretty good deal right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're
Awesome.
absolutely right. Thank you, man.
Cool, brother. All right. Well, hey, it's great talking to you, Jonathan. I'll be praying for you and all your situations with your girlfriend and her parents. You represent the faith, man. You'll do it.
Appreciate it. Will do.
All right, brother.
Have a wonderful night.
You too. God bless. God bless. All right. All right, my friends. Well, listen, I know this has been kind of wild tonight. We've had a lot of on-screen guests, which means I haven't been able to get to all of your questions. So please, I apologize for that, but please save them for next time. Okay. Keep that up and we're going to keep going. But thank you guys for taking time to join me here tonight. Isn't it cool? I love the fact that you guys we get to do this together. It's one of my favorite things about this whole YouTube thing. And especially this channel in particular. Have you noticed? I'll tell you something. And hopefully I'm not jinxing myself right now. It's pretty gutsy to just pull people up on screen. I have no idea what they're going to say. Okay. I know there will be other channels where you do that and man, all hell could break loose on your YouTube channel. Okay. And believe me, I've got my finger ready on the button to, pull somebody out quickly if they become a nutcase. But we've never had that happen. Okay. Because the people that are plugged in on this channel are respectful. They're diverse in their opinions and viewpoints, but that's okay. And they're ready to grow and to learn. And I think that's so awesome. So hats off to all of you guys. And thank you for taking time to be here. Do me a favor if you haven't done so yet. I know this is the stupid cheeseball thing to do, but please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and help me get the word out about more videos. Tomorrow morning, I got a great interview with Lenny Curry, mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, who flew all the way out here from Washington, D.C., came from the White House to my house. His interview is amazing. It's going to be awesome. Appreciate you guys being here. That'll be at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I hope that you guys will join. And again, I also want to say thanks to those of you who do support us on Patreon or Locals. We thank you for your financial support. It really does help. We have a lot of stuff going on that we're trying to do, and everything that we do for free. It's crazy. Like all the rosary, the Bible study, all that stuff. I don't have anything behind a paywall except, some extra special things for my patrons and locals. But all of our content to help people is all out there for free, and you guys can help make that possible. So thank you guys. I don't talk about that a ton, but thank you guys so much for those of you who are supporting us as well. And keep praying as well, my friends. And I'll see you back here. Let me just look real quick. Am I around next Monday? I think I am. So let's see here. Yes, I will be here next Monday. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So join us back for another fun-filled Q&A time here on the live stream. God bless you, my friends. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. for Lenny Curry's interview. Take care, everybody. Thanks again.